Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your company?
You bet. My name is Chris Basom, and I am the owner of a tax and accounting practice here in South Orange County. I've been doing this for about 30 years.
Amazing. So, what were some important key details you were looking for when you were searching for a building space? What were your business's needs?
Well, the position we were in when we met Randy and began looking for additional space was that we had been in an executive office for about 3 years at that point. Had moved there from a different office. I've leased space, commercial space in Orange County for probably 30 years. And so we were looking for, to break back out of the executive office and into our own office, and got a referral, to Randy from another client.
So, what were some concerns you had about the whole leasing process and how did Randy help?
Well, like buying anything, you always feel at a loss as the consumer, and so, yeah, I've been in business for a long time. Yes, I've done, had signed leases before and had leased space before, but I always felt like I was doing things without really understanding what was happening, and I knew there was an inside language, and I knew that the people who do that have ways to, for lack of a better word, to get the better of someone who's trying to lease space. And that was when I ask around to my circle of clients and friends, do you have someone you've used before who you believe and you trust? Normally you get, well, I've used, this guy or that guy or this gal or that gal, but you don't get, yeah, I've used him 3 times and he's been fantastic and you should use him too. And that was the introduction I got.
Amazing. Okay, awesome. So, how was Randy's service excellence towards you? Did he understand, respond, listen, and solve your problems?
Well, the first meeting we had, he came to the existing office I had, and we sat down and we talked about what it was I was looking for, why I was looking for that, how that space would morph and change and grow over the time I'd be there. Just a whole interview before we even went out and looked at space. So he spent the time to ask the questions to understand what I wanted before he started cracking open the books and trying to find a space to go to.
Amazing. So, what did you learn once you started working with Randy? Did he educate you in the process?
The working with Randy was unique in that not only did we look at space, but we talked about the building it was in. We talked about the neighborhood it was in. We talked about his experience with this particular landlord or this particular group. And we got the benefit of the fact that Randy typically knew an awful lot about what we were about to do from a bigger picture basis, not just this particular lease, but how the other tenants in the building had gotten there, how the building had evolved over time, how this management group got in charge of the building. And that helped us to understand how to make an offer, what was important in the offer process, and what we could get and not get that would be beneficial to us.
So, what did you look for when you were looking for a real estate professional to represent you? And did Randy fit what you were looking for?
Very much so. We are unique in our business because of the amount of groundwork we do with the client, the amount of understanding we want of the client before we start to calculate the numbers. Because it's not so much what the numbers are, it's what the numbers mean. And that was how Randy approached things too. The gentleman who had referred Randy to me, he and I, both small business owners, both think very much the same. And when he referred Randy, he referred someone who thought the same way we did. That it's a longer term thing, that it isn't just a transaction, that there's a relationship and a value to knowing what it is we're doing and how we're going to get there. Yeah, so it was very, very enjoyable, and he was everything I was looking for.
So, do you feel he fought for your needs, and if so, how?
I feel like he understood our needs so we didn't have to do a lot of fighting. And I think that's that could be a misnomer about fighting for someone. If you understand what it is that person is trying to get, and you understand where that person can get what they want, then it becomes really, marrying things up as opposed to, struggling through a transaction. But he very much understood what it was I wanted. And he understood what was important to me, what things I could live without, what things I had to have. And when we made our offer, that was part of constructing the offer, was including things that weren't going to be as important to us that we could give away, in the process, to let the other side feel as if they were getting something too.
So you mentioned you met Randy through a recommendation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So would you recommend Randy to others in a similar situation?
Would I recommend Randy? I already have in many occasions. And after our initial transaction, where he moved us into what was a great location and a great building for us, we then negotiated a blend and extend, which is, again, another phrase I was unfamiliar with before I knew Randy. And we extended that initial lease. And then when that building was subsequently sold to another group and their needs changed, their whole goal changed, I contacted Randy. I reached out to him and said, okay, now where are you going to find me a place to be? And we did our third transaction in what, 15 years, 16 years? But in the in-between, he reached out on a regular basis, probably once every month or two, with a quick email just to say, just checking in. How are things going? Do you have any questions? Is there anything going on in the building? Is there anything going on in your life? And because we had referred business, to him, small business clients we had who were looking for space, who were wondering about space, those kinds of things, it became more of a working relationship that didn't need us to be in a transaction to be working together.
So last question. Are you happy with Randy's service?
I'm thrilled. I am thrilled with Randy's service. I am thrilled to be asked to talk about him, and thrilled to be promoting, if I can, a person who I would consider a good friend.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
My pleasure.